Hi, this is Brass and we're recording this on October 11th, 2021. And this story escaped my attention when it was new, but it's still in play and it's worth knowing about. Hard to find good videos on this, so I found a decent article that explains the issue, and I'm going to read it to you. This comes from something called The Print, which is a sort of political news magazine published online in India. And India is important here for the following reason. Bar Association serves legal notice to World Health Organization chief scientist over ivermectin guidelines. The Mumbai headquartered Indian Bar Association claims the WHO chief scientist Soumya Swaminathan quote, ran disinformation campaign against ivermectin. So that's the headline. Let's get into the meat. New Delhi, the Indian Bar Association of Mumbai served a legal notice to chief scientist at the World Health Organization, Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, for, quote, influencing the public against and running a disinformation campaign against ivermectin, a popular anti-parasitic drug prescribed for COVID-19 patients. And if you're not familiar with ivermectin, it is used by tens of millions, perhaps hundreds of millions of people all over the world. The inventor got a Nobel Prize for it, and it definitely works to kill parasites. And a lot of people in a lot of countries are finding that it works to control negative outcomes from COVID. And of course, we've been told here in America that ivermectin is useless and nobody should touch it and blah, blah, blah. And one of the leaders of that is the chief scientist of the World Health Organization, who happens to be an Indian, which is, I guess, why the Bar Association of Mumbai is addressing her specifically. The IBA, which is a private bar association, as all are, headquartered in Mumbai, was reacting to public statements, including those on Twitter, by Swaminathan, saying that the HWO did not recommend the drug's use for COVID-19 except within clinical trials. She also said there was no evidence that the drug helped stop the disease progression. Well, we certainly hear that repeated by every useful idiot in the news media. The World Health Organization has consistently said there is insufficient evidence to prove that ivermectin helps alleviate COVID disease. Okay, the IBA's, that's the Bar Association's 51-page notice, and it's a notice, guys, it's not a lawsuit, but it is a notice from a bar association. Actually, a little sidebar, here in the United States, pharma has been actively colonizing and corrupting bar associations across the country, starting with the New York Bar Association. And they managed to get the New York Bar Association, which is lawyers with no medical training whatsoever, to decide that mandatory vaccinations are a good thing. And that's something that they actually decreed as a association. But anyway, in India, they haven't managed to corrupt the Indians, a bar association, yet. It's expensive to corrupt. There's a lot of countries, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of palms to grease. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort. And I guess they overlooked India. Anyway, the notice was sent on May 25th, 2021, and it calls Swaminathan's statements, quote, highly unconscionable, misleading, and issued with ulterior purposes and deliberate intention to underplay the effectiveness in treating the COVID-19 disease patients, as well as its use as a prophylaxis, a preventative, and to dissuade people from using this drug by creating doubts in the minds of people around the safety of ivermectin. Whew, that's a mouthful, but I like it. It states the case very well. Highly unconscionable, check. Misleading, absolutely. Issued with ulterior purposes, definitely. Deliberate intention to underplay the effectiveness of ivermectin, check. I don't like the prophylaxis thing. Why use a $20 word when you can use a simple one? But hey, nothing's perfect. And the World Health Organization's job has been to create doubts in the minds of people about the safety of ivermectin. The problem with trying to do that is if people are educated, they know that this drug has been prescribed to tens, if not hundreds of millions of people over the decades. And the guy that developed it won the Nobel Prize, and it works. Now, does it work for COVID? A lot of people say it does. Is it dangerous? Can't say it's dangerous because people are using it all over the world. Anyway, the association, I love this part. This is really good. We need this in our country times 10. The association has called for action under sections of 302, that's punishment for murder. 304, subsection 2, culpable homicide not amounting to murder. Section 88, act not intended to cause death. So manslaughter. Section 120, subsection B, party to criminal conspiracy. And section 34, acts done by several persons in furtherance of a common intention. And other provisions of the Indian Penal Code and under Disaster Management Act 2005. We need this in our country. We need to stop pussyfooting around and call out Fauci and friends for what they're doing. It is murder. I mean, it's homicide. I mean, it's homicide. It's if you get together with people and plan something that results in the death of others, isn't that criminal conspiracy to homicide? The best these guys could get away with is manslaughter, but it is death. They're causing the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people by lying about the nature of this disease. Direct deaths by preventing people from getting proper care. I mean, do you realize that in New York State, dying people, their families have had to sue hospitals in order for ivermectin and other useful drugs to be used for their family members. They have to go to court. And so far the judges have always said, yes, give these people the drugs. Imagine a hospital preventing somebody from getting a remedy that works. That's where we are. That's where we are. This is what we need to focus on. This is a medical dictatorship. And I was saying that long before COVID came along, and because it applied to anybody in a bad situation medically. You discover that it's a medical dictatorship and that the people operating inside the medical system are to a large degree useless. And it's been discovered by one person at a time. Now this is an occasion for all of us to wake up and see that we are living in a medical dictatorship. So I continue. The legal notice is just the first step. We're going to be taking it forward. There are forces working to prevent ivermectin for reasons mentioned in the notice, says the author of the notice and the head of the India Bar Association of Mumbai. It's funny, Mumbai is considered like this cool, hip, progressive, modern city, but not when they're fighting pharma. Suddenly Mumbai is not an important place anymore. What's the legal notice based on? The IBA, in its legal notice, claims that the drug, quote, has brought back, this is badly written. I can't even read this. Too bad. But anyway, next paragraph. The notice accuses Swaminathan of deliberately dismissing the drug in desperate hope to dissuade the people of India from discovering the effectiveness of ivermectin and that they keep falling sick and are available as a huge market for new drugs that may be given under emergency use authorization. These Indian fellows got it. This is the essence of what's going on. This is what we've been talking about since early 2020, related to COVID and for many years before that related to other things. They are keeping effective drugs off the market so that people will fall sick and become available as a market for new drugs, i.e. expensive drugs and very often ineffective drugs and very often dangerous drugs. And here's the statement. It continues, you, Swaminathan, have abused your position as the chief scientist of the World Health Organization to adversely influence people, including medical doctors and scientists, by trying to impose upon them the fact that the World Health Organization does not support the use of ivermectin. It seems you have deliberately opted for deaths of people to achieve your ulterior goals. Yeah, I mean, how much clearer could it be? And we need to be clear. We need to be as clear as this statement. They are causing deaths. They are killing people. Anyway, strange that this is hard information to find. There's really not a good YouTube video about it, but now you got it. The Mumbai headquartered Indian Bar Association, Mumbai being the Silicon Valley of India, and we consider them very savvy unless they're going up against pharma. And glad to see a person called out by name. This person happens to be the chief scientist of the World Health Organization, and she is indeed running a disinformation campaign. And she is indeed responsible for the deaths of who knows how many thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people. So if there's any news on this, I'll let you know, but that's the news on it to this date.